Have you ever had that unsettling feeling that someone you trusted just doesn't get it? That no matter how much you explain how patient you are, they stay trapped in a cycle of foolishness, dragging you down with them? If so, you're not alone. And understanding who you're dealing with, recognizing the signs of a foolish mind could be the difference between thriving or suffering in silence. Before we dive deep into today's life-changing wisdom, take a moment to hit that subscribe button, like this video, and watch till the end. And because today's lesson could change your love life, your career, your peace of mind, and even save you years of wasted energy, Stoic philosophy has powerful answers, and today, we're uncovering them. Let's step back for a moment. Imagine ancient Rome, a city buzzing with ambition, greed, beauty, and danger. Among the emperors, many of whom were drunk on power, there stood a rare figure, Marcus Aurelius. He was no ordinary ruler. He wasn't driven by wealth or fame. He was driven by wisdom, by an unrelenting commitment to living rightly, even in a chaotic world. And during his lifetime, Marcus quietly observed people. He noticed patterns, especially the patterns of foolishness. He didn't just roll his eyes and move on. He wrote them down in his private journal, what we today call meditations. And from his insights, we can extract something truly powerful. 6 clear signs of a stupid person, according to Stoic. Thought sharpened with 10 of Marcus Aurelius's suggestions to help you not only spot them, but protect yourself. On 1, they always blame others. Have you ever loved someone so deeply that you started losing pieces of yourself, just trying to keep them happy? Close your eyes for a second and go back to that relationship. The one where you thought, this is it. This is the person I've been waiting for. The one that made you smile like a fool at your phone. The one you imagined forever with. Now tell me, how many times when things went wrong, did they point the finger at you? Maybe they forgot your anniversary, but it was your fault for making a big deal out of it. Maybe they shouted at you, but it was your fault for pushing their buttons. Maybe they disappeared when you needed them most, but somehow you were too needy. Sound familiar? Marcus Aurelius, a man who ruled an empire but still understood the human heart, once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." The first sign of a foolish person, Marcus reminds us, is the inability to take responsibility. They live life with a mirror pointed outward, never inward. Every mistake, every argument, every heartbreak, it's always someone else's fault. And if you love someone like that, you know the pain isn't just about the fights. It's the slow, silent erosion of your self-worth. It's lying awake at night, replaying every conversation, wondering if you really are the problem. It's questioning your heart, your kindness, your memories. Let me ask you something. Do you remember the first time you doubted yourself because of them? The first time you apologized just to keep the peace, even when deep down you knew you had done nothing wrong? That's the trap. Blamers don't just hurt you, they make you hurt yourself. Marcus Aurelius would tell you that's not love. Love doesn't make you question your own soul. Love doesn't make you carry burdens that aren't yours. You see, real strength isn't in shouting louder or blaming harder. Real strength is in humility, in saying, I was wrong, in growing, in healing. Foolish people reject growth. They cling to their innocence even when they are guilty. And if you're the one always bending, apologizing, shrinking just to fit their version of the truth, you're loving someone who doesn't even love themselves properly. Marcus's advice is simple and piercing. Guard your peace. If someone can't take ownership of their mistakes, they don't deserve the keys to your heart. So let me ask you, if you could speak to the younger version of yourself, the one who fell so fearlessly in love, what would you whisper in their ear? You are enough. You don't have to carry what they refuse to face. Your love is a gift, not a burden. Remember, the right person won't make you doubt your worth. They'll protect it. And as we walk through the rest of these signs together, stay with me, because with each truth, you'll get closer to the love, the peace, and the strength you've always deserved. Your story isn't broken. It's becoming beautiful, too. They refuse to learn from their mistakes. Have you ever loved someone who kept hurting you? Not because they didn't know better, but because they didn't care enough to change? Think about it. That one person you forgave once, then twice, then more times than you can even count. Do you remember how you kept hoping, telling yourself, this time they'll realize, this time they'll love me better, this time they'll keep their promises? But somehow, nothing changed. The same arguments, the same broken promises, the same tears, over and over again, like a sad song stuck on repeat. Marcus Aurelius, wise beyond his years, once said, "If someone can prove me wrong and show me my mistake, I will gladly change. I seek the truth which never harmed anyone. The harm is to persist in one's self-deception and ignorance, and that's where the second clear sign of a foolish person reveals itself. They refuse to learn from their mistakes. When you love someone who refuses to grow, it feels like you're stuck in a loop. A beautiful beginning followed by disappointment, followed by promises to change. Promises that vanish like smoke. Let me ask you, how many times did you sit across from them? Maybe crying, maybe pleading, saying, "Please, just understand me, please try." And how many times did you watch them nod, say the right words, and then fall right back into the same old patterns? You weren't asking for perfection. You weren't even asking for miracles. You were just asking to be seen, to be valued, to be loved better. But here's the truth Marcus would whisper to you. Love without growth is like watering a dead plant. No matter how much you give, nothing blooms. Foolish people live in denial. They believe saying sorry is enough. They believe empty words can cover up repeated actions. They would rather stay comfortable in their mistakes than feel the discomfort of real change. And if you were the one always adjusting, always forgiving, always bending, and you weren't weak, you were loyal. You believed in love. You believed in them. But love, real love, isn't about forgiving the same behavior 1,000 times. It's about growing together, healing together, becoming better one for each other. So tell me honestly, if you could sit beside your past self during one of those endless, tearful nights, what would you say? Maybe you'd whisper, "Love shouldn't hurt this much." Or maybe you'd say, if they loved you like you loved them, they'd have fought for you. The hardest truth to swallow? Change has to come from within. No amount of your love, patience, or sacrifice could ever force them to see what they refuse to see. Marcus would tell you, protect your soul. Choose the kind of love where mistakes are stepping stones, not shackles. Because you, my friend, deserve a partner who doesn't just say they'll change, but proves it. Stay with me, because as we uncover more signs, you'll start to see how powerful your love truly is and why it deserves to be cherished, not wasted. This journey you're on, it's not just about seeing others clearly, it's about finally seeing yourself. 3. They are always arrogant and overconfident. Have you ever loved someone who made you feel small, not with their words, but with the way they carried themselves, as if they were always right, and you were just lucky to be standing next to them? Think back for a second. Remember that person who, at first, seemed so charming, so confident, so sure of themselves? The one who made you feel like you were lucky to have their attention? The one whose confidence drew you in like a moth to a flame? At first it felt magical, didn't it? Their certainty, their boldness, it made you believe they could protect you, lead you, make life exciting. But slowly, quietly, things started to shift. Do you remember how your opinions began to matter less? How every conversation turned into a competition? How every disagreement ended with you questioning yourself, wondering, am I just not smart enough? Marcus Aurelius, the wise emperor of Rome, once wrote, "It is the mark of an educated mind to entertain a thought without accepting it." In other words, true strength lies in humility. True wisdom listens. True love shares the stage instead of standing alone in the spotlight. And that's where the third undeniable sign of a foolish person emerges. They are arrogant and overconfident. You see, arrogance isn't real strength. It's a mask. A wall built by people too fragile to admit they don't know everything. The foolish believe they are untouchable. They would rather lose you than lose an argument. They would rather crush your spirit than admit they were wrong. And if you loved someone like that, I know how heavy your heart must have felt. Because deep down all you wanted was to be heard, to be treated like an equal, to be loved without being made to feel less. Let me ask you, can you remember a time when you swallowed your truth just to keep their pride intact? Can you remember shrinking your dreams, your opinions, your voice when we're just to keep the peace? You weren't wrong for loving them. You weren't wrong for hoping they would one day see you, really see you. But Marcus Aurelius would have reminded you, pride without kindness is not strength. It's a weakness dressed up in golden armor. The right person will not need to tower over you to feel important. They will stand beside you, not above you. So if you could whisper something to the version of yourself who once believed you had to earn love by being less, what would you say? Maybe you'd whisper, You are not a shadow, you are light. Or maybe you'd say, real love lifts you higher. It never clips your wings. You deserve a love where your voice is not just heard, but cherished. Where your dreams are not just tolerated, but celebrated. Stay with me. Because as we move through these signs together, you're not just learning about them, you're learning about you and the love you were always meant to have. This is your story, and the best part is still unwritten. For they are controlled by their emotions. Have you ever loved someone whose emotions felt like a storm you could never escape? One moment the sun was shining, laughter, kisses, promises. And the next, without warning, the sky turned black. Anger, cold silence slammed doors, and you standing there trying to figure out what you did wrong. Can you remember that feeling? That moment when you realized you were walking on eggshells, carefully choosing your words, calculating every step, just to avoid setting off another explosion? Think about that night. Maybe you were holding your phone, hands shaking, afraid to call because you didn't know which version of them would pick up. The one who loved you, or the one who wounded you with words they could never take back? Marcus Aurelius, one who faced wars, betrayals, and loss, once said, "You have power over your mind and not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. Real strength is mastering your emotions, not becoming a prisoner to them." And that leads us to the fourth undeniable sign of a foolish person. They are controlled by their emotions. When someone is ruled by anger, jealousy, pride, or fear, it's not love they offer. It's chaos wrapped in pretty words. You might have told yourself, they just feel things deeply. Maybe it's my fault. Maybe I should understand them better. Maybe love means accepting their storms. But let me tell you the truth. You can love someone through their struggles, but you cannot survive if you're drowning in them. Do you remember how you started dimming your own light just to keep their storms at bay? How you laughed a little softer, dreamed a little smaller, smiled a little less, because you were afraid your happiness might somehow trigger their sadness or rage? That wasn't love, that was survival. And love, real love, should never feel like survival. Marcus would tell you, true love is steady, like a lighthouse in a storm. It's the anchor, not the hurricane. So let me ask you, if you could sit across from your past self, the version of you who stayed up crying, blaming yourself for their moods, and what would you whisper? Maybe you would say, you are not responsible for the weather inside another person's heart. Or maybe you'd softly remind yourself, you deserve peace, not unpredictable storms. Foolish people make you feel like love is a battlefield, where you have to earn affection by surviving their worst moods. But the right person, they will not make you tiptoe around their anger. They will not hand you their brokenness and expect you to fix it. They will offer you calm. They will offer you safety. And most of all, they will offer you the kind of love that feels like coming home, not surviving a war. Stay with me, because the next signs will reveal even more truths you've always needed to hear. This isn't just about them anymore, and it's about freeing yourself. Your story is still being written, and it's about to get beautiful. They blame others for their own mistakes. Have you ever loved someone who always found a way to make everything your fault? Think back for a moment. Maybe it started small, little arguments where you apologized, just to keep the peace, even when deep down you knew you hadn't done anything wrong. Do you remember that aching feeling? The confusion? The sadness of being made to feel like you were the reason for their failures, their anger, their disappointments? Maybe you found yourself wondering, am I really that hard to love? Is it really all my fault? Marcus Aurelius once said something powerful. Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be one. In other words, real strength, real character, is about owning your actions, not shifting the blame onto someone else's shoulders. And that leads us straight to the fifth undeniable sign of a foolish person. They blame others for their own mistakes. Imagine this. You're standing in the middle of a battlefield you never signed up for. You're holding their guilt, their anger, their failures, all piled into your arms, because they were too proud, too foolish to carry their own burdens. If they failed at something, it was because you didn't support them enough. If they hurt you with their words, it was because you made them angry. If they lied, it was because you forced them to. Sound familiar? Let me ask you, how many times did you forgive them? How many times did you blame yourself for the cracks they made in your heart? You see, foolish people wear blame like armor, deflecting every mistake, every flaw onto someone else, usually onto the person who loved them the most. And if you were that person, carrying their mistakes like they were your own, you weren't foolish. You were loving. You believed that if you just tried harder, loved better, stayed longer, they would change. But Marcus would have gently reminded you, you are not responsible for healing. Someone who refuses to even admit they are broken. Think about it. Real love isn't about carrying someone else's shame. It's about growing together, facing mistakes, learning, forgiving, evolving. Blame is easy. Growth is hard. And foolish people always take the easy road. Let me ask you one more thing. If you could sit beside your past self, the one who cried alone after yet another fight, you didn't cause, what would you say? Maybe you'd whisper, it wasn't your fault. Or maybe through tears you'd finally tell yourself, you deserved someone who said I'm sorry and meant it. Because you, my friend, are not the villain in their story. You are just a character trying to love someone who refused to change. Stay close to me, because the signs we're uncovering aren't just about seeing others. More clearly, they're about finally seeing yourself, your strength, your heart, your worth. 6, they refuse to learn or improve. Have you ever loved someone who stayed the same? No matter how many chances life, and you gave them, someone who kept repeating the same mistakes, the same broken promises, the same apologies that sounded beautiful at first, but slowly lost all their meaning. Think back for a second. Can you remember those nights when you believed, truly believed, that this time would be different? That maybe, just maybe your love would be enough to inspire them to change? You held on to hope, didn't you? Because that's what real lovers do. They believe in the people they love. They see not just who someone is, but who they could become. But slowly, painfully, you realized something. They didn't want to change. They didn't even try. Marcus Aurelius, a man who spent his life seeking wisdom, once said, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." He believed that every obstacle was a chance to grow stronger, to become better, to evolve. But foolish people, they see obstacles as insults. They see mistakes as someone else's fault. They see growth as an attack on their ego. And that brings us to the 6th undeniable sign of a foolish person. They refuse to learn or improve. Maybe you can still remember the conversations, the ones where you poured out your heart, telling them how you felt, what you needed, how things could be better. If only they would meet you halfway. But it always ended the same way, didn't it? Empty promises, defensiveness, excuses dressed up as apologies. Let me ask you, how many times did you forgive them for the same mistake? How many nights did you close your eyes, clutching onto a version of them that existed only in your dreams? You see, love can be patient. Love can be kind. But love cannot survive if only one heart is willing to grow. And it was never your job to drag someone into becoming the person they refused to be. Imagine if Marcus Aurelius, the emperor of Rome, had refused to learn, refused to adapt, refused to rise above his challenges. He would have been forgotten by history. He would have crumbled under the weight of his own pride. And yet here you are, still standing, still learning, still believing in the possibility of better. That makes you stronger than you realize. Let me ask you one last thing. If you could go back and hold the hand of the version of yourself who kept forgiving, kept believing, kept waiting, what would you whisper? Maybe you would say, your love was never the problem, their refusal to grow was. Or maybe you'd simply hold yourself close and whisper, you deserved a love that evolved, not a love that stayed stuck in the same cycle of hurt. You gave them every opportunity to rise. But now, it's time for you to rise. Stay close with me, because the truth you're discovering isn't just about recognizing others. It's about recognizing the incredible power that's been inside you all along. This is your story now, and it's about to become something extraordinary. I want you to ask yourself, how many of these signs have you seen in others? More painfully, how many do you see in yourself? Because Stoic philosophy isn't about judging others. It's about seeing clearly, first outside, then within. It's about choosing a higher road even when the lower one seems easier. Marcus Aurelius didn't write to impress anyone. He wrote to save himself from the traps he saw all around him, and sometimes within him. He understood. Foolishness isn't just out there. It lurks inside all of us, every day in 100 small ways. We are tempted to drift into blame, arrogance, indulgence, emotional chaos, vanity, and waste. But every day we are also given a choice. The choice to return, to realign, to rise. You have that choice right now. 6 signs of a stupid person. 1. They blame others for everything. 2. They think they know everything. 3. They chase only pleasure and comfort. 4. They cannot control their emotions. 5. They are obsessed with appearances. 6. They waste time. And 10. Marcus Aurelius' suggestions to overcome and avoid these traps. So own your reactions. 2. Avoid chronic blamers. 3. Stay teachable. 4. Don't argue with arrogance. 5. Live with purpose, not pleasure. 6. Harden your soul through effort. 7. Master your emotions. Recognize that uncontrolled emotions disqualify leadership. Source: care about your own standards, not others' opinions. 10. Treasure your time like gold. The foolish seek to impress. The wise seek to improve. The foolish blame. The wise build. The foolish drift. The wise decide. Marcus Aurelius chose wisdom. Even when surrounded by chaos, temptation, and vanity, you can too. It begins with seeing clearly. It continues with acting bravely. And it ends with a life you're proud to have lived. With that said, thanks for watching, and until next time,